So to have the platform we have, not only to show how life can be good after paralysis, but also that you can be in a happy couple. And even though we do have our struggles, life continues on and it's happy and positive and adventures keep happening.
Welcome to Flip Your Script, the podcast about life's critical turning points and how people find the inspiration and motivation to move forward and rewrite their unique stories. Produced by Media Minefield, the show is hosted by Christy Peel, who flipped her script from an Emmy-winning journalist to a successful entrepreneur and speaker.
Matt and Sloan Bowen share a one-of-a-kind love story. They've chosen to share their life and their relationship online. They have an impressive following on YouTube and TikTok. Matt was injured in 2015 on spring break. He knew Sloan, they were friends. The accident left Matt as a quadriplegic. Sloan supported him, and they fell in love. Matt and Sloan, welcome to the Flip Your Script podcast.
Thank you. We're excited to be here.
Yeah, so excited.
And you're actually the first couple that I've interviewed. Usually it's one or the other. So I'm really excited to have two people, especially because your story doesn't work without the both of you here. So thank you.
Thank you. We're honored to be your first couple.
Yeah, it's exciting. Good stuff.
So you were friends. Let's go back to the friendship part of your relationship. So you're friends. Matt gets injured. Young, healthy, active person. You find out you need to be in a wheelchair. Shocking information to take hold of. And then Sloan comes alongside. You fall in love. You're now married. Matt, let's start with you. What was it like to go through that time of your life and then to have Sloan support you and fall in love?
Yeah, it was really nice to have somebody that was just there to, just support and be friends with no expectation. I didn't feel like I owed her anything. She didn't owe me anything. And there wasn't like, hey, are we going to start dating? Are we going to, you know what I mean? It was just like, I'm there for you. And there were some really dark times that I had in the hospital, and she would just come and just, hold my hand. Or I was really hot in the hospital, so she'd dab me with a wet cloth. Just things like that really helped me through some of the really hard times.
And Sloan, how did you chose to fall in love? You chose to be part of this relationship long term, and you're young.
Yeah.
Love happens. There's a natural kind of thing that happens, but you had to choose that this is the life you wanted to have. How did you do that?
Honestly, my mom has been very supportive through this whole process. And once the accident happened, it was I went through a mourning process. Like, I was grieving for my friend that just had an accident. And my mom she's just so wise. And she just said, like, she knew I had feelings for him, but I was good just to be friends. But she sat me down and she said, everything that's happened to you in this life has prepared you for this. So she was willing to support me and be there if this is something I wanted to do. And we're very spiritual. And I was just praying and asking our Heavenly Father if this is something I can do and what I need to do.
She had a lot of experiences growing up with people who had different disabilities. She'd known a couple quadriplegics. And so there's things that prepared her whole life for interacting and understanding disability.
And like your mom said, all those touch points, I imagine you looked back on at that time and said, I am prepared for this.
Mm-hmm.
You've decided to have your relationship public, and even a word like interabled is something that not everyone knows about. And yet through your TikTok and through your YouTube channel, that's a word that you're educating people about. Why did you decide to go public? Well,
our whole goal is to kind of show that your life can be great and positive, even through something so traumatic that happens. So that's overall our goal, to show that you can adapt and overcome.
Yeah, a lot of people that I know that are in wheelchairs, even years afterwards, they feel that life is unfair and that somebody kind of owes them something because life is just taking this turn. I was in a position where I was injured by the ocean, right? So I didn't have anybody to blame, and so that I think has helped kind of in my healing process, I guess, because I'm not sitting there blaming whatever happened on somebody else if that person had done, whatever. And so we both just together saying, it's not backing up into the hospital, like I realized early on, nobody wanted to be around somebody who was negative and who was upset all the time. And so I've just chosen to be positive. I had experiences that have helped me to, feel my feelings, but then kind of push them off to the side and do whatever I can to make life better. And so we try to share that message with everyone, because everybody can do it. It doesn't matter what your situation is, whether it's paralysis, whether you have anxiety, depression, you have maybe other mental disabilities, or I don't know, you lost an arm, or life's just hard. Maybe you grew up in a poor area and it's just difficult to get out. But everybody has the ability to make life what you want it to be, no matter how hard it is. As long as you kind of own it, you can make life better. And that's our whole premise, and we want to share that to everybody, that they can see that.
Right. But also I wanted to open up our lives too, because I'm from a very small hometown, and once the community heard that I was dating a boy in a wheelchair, their instant reaction was, can he talk? Can he do this? Can he do that? Like, they just didn't understand like what a quadriplegic was. And so that's why I want to be so open about it, because a lot of people don't know what a quadriplegic is, or just any of the disabled community. So that's why we decided to share our lives.
It's really impressive and inspirational to watch and to see what you've been willing to put out there. Sloan, is it hard to live with someone that positive?
She's probably more positive than I am.
It's pretty obnoxious.
I think other people might be a little overwhelmed by us sometimes, but yeah, I mean, there's definitely times, like I can't say I'm always 100% positive, because there's times that are really difficult, and I'm really frustrated when, I want to do something and either take a super long time to do it, or I can't do it. And Sloan's over there just, I don't know, watching TV, and I'm like, oh, I want you to help me, but I know I need to do this. Or even times when I want to do something, she's like, no, or I want help rather doing something, and Sloan's like, nope, you can do it on your own. I'm like, dang it, this is so frustrating. And so, yeah, it's tough positive love that's been really good for me. But so I'd say it's more me that has a little bit harder time with how positive she is.
I think we're honestly the perfect team. Like, we balance each other out. Like, if he's down, I'll lift him up. If I'm having a hard time, he lifts me up. It's just like a great balance. And we're just the kind of people that don't really hold grudges. So we just just keep trying to build each other up.
She's very, very forgiving, and it's a very nice thing.
There's a lot of relationship lessons in what you just said. You talked about forgiveness and being a team and all of the things that are true every day. And in this time when so many people are quarantined and together way more than they ever thought they would be with their spouse, it's caused some challenges for folks. And the things that you just talked about are rules for a good relationship all the time. Have you guys had any issues being quarantined together?
I've loved it.
No, we really haven't. We had a couple issues. So we actually moved in the middle of quarantine. We just had built a house and moved in, and there were some issues, a little bit of frustration early on as we were trying to get things settled within the house. And there's been some conflict, like what she wants to put in the house or where we want to put things. But overall, I don't think we've had too many issues.
Yeah, I
being
mean,
around each other.
Once COVID happened, it kind of just threw us out of our normal routine. So we just had to do what we always do, just adapt and overcome and just roll with it. So yeah, it's been good.
One of the things that I've learned about you in the research is the 10-minute rule. Can you talk about the 10-minute rule?
Yeah, definitely. In the hospital, I was really struggling, kind of coming to grips with everything. And I was sitting in the hospital bed, just laying there feeling bad for myself and venting to my brother. And so he came up he was just listening, and he said, hey, I want you to try something. And he said that I should just try to feel bad for myself for only 10 minutes a day. And other than that, do whatever I could to improve my situation. And so I took that to heart and just said, it's good to feel my feelings. It's good to feel this way, understand my situation, but there's no point in living like that long term. And so I just started, after I had my 10 minutes, or if I didn't need those 10 minutes, I would just do whatever I could to make life better. I'd work on the little things, sitting up straight in my wheelchair, or, wheeling down the hall, or working on transferring myself from my chair to the transfer bed, or whatever it was at the time. And I've continued using that, when I have a hard time at work and I'm struggling with a certain situation, I just let that go after 10 minutes. And then I say, okay, what can I do to improve? And it's made a huge difference in my life.
Yep. I also use the 10-minute rule. It's just part of our household now.
Yep.
Do you need one every day?
No.
Nope. And that was one thing my brother said. If you remember back a while ago with your cell phone, when you had rollover minutes. And so he said, if you don't use your 10 minutes, you can roll those over to some other day. So there's definitely days when you're good. We don't need the 10 minutes, but there's some days you might need 20 or 30 minutes. But I mean, the ultimate premise is just don't wallow in your self-pity, because that's a really dark hole to get lost in, and it's hard to come out if you stay there.
We talked before that you've put this all out there on social media and on the internet. Is there a lot of pressure? You're getting TikTok famous. Is there a lot of pressure in that, and is that hard?
Yeah, I think there's some pressure to kind of keep up, but one thing that's hard is that people, even with us educating them on our lives, they still disagree. Like we'll say, oh, I'm a quadriplegic and whatever. And they're like, no, you're a paraplegic. And I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure no, I even know what I am. And so there's some things that kind of is hard. Or people in one of the videos, we worded it maybe not the best way. And so she got a lot of backlash and said that.
But in my defense, I did not assume that like millions and millions of people would see this video. Like I'm honestly was making these videos for us. Like they're for our entertainment. But as for feeling pressured, I have been feeling a little bit more pressured to post more, which has been interesting. And I just kind of learned like I don't have to post for others. We post for ourselves. And so I've been trying to stay humble and not post just to post because people want to see or.
Yeah, and we've had people that, with our YouTube, they're like, hey, when are you releasing your next YouTube? And try to almost kind of pressure. And like she said, we're posting it to not to just put out content, but to put out quality content and to educate people. And so, yeah, it's kind of hard to balance that, like getting good information out there, but in a more timely manner. So,
right. Yeah. And we both work full time.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. This isn't your full-time job. You have jobs, and TikTok started as a way to educate people, and it blew up in a way that people are asking to see more videos, and you're sitting on a podcast right now. And that wasn't your intention. You didn't start out to get the attention. You started out to educate.
Right.
Are you happy that you've gotten a bigger platform?
One thing that's been cool on my end is that I've been a little more reluctant just because I like to be a bit more of a private person. But Sloan's like, hey, we really can make a difference in people's lives. And so I've gone along with it. And with YouTube especially, I'm like, I don't want to do this necessarily. Like, I just want to live my life. And so the other day we actually met another couple that was recently injured, and they were married already, and the man was injured and he was left quadriplegic. And so they were trying to navigate life and they just didn't know where to start, whatever. And so they just YouTubed, and they come across my videos, and he's like, yeah, I was struggling with, this one thing. And he saw my videos and saw that how to accomplish it. I can't remember exactly what it was, but he saw how much hope there was in the future and kind of expressed that to me. And I was like, okay, Sloan, you're right. Like I should keep doing these videos. And it was just really positive to see how we've actually had an impact on even someone locally here. So it was really cool.
Yeah. And I just think Matt has such a gift and talent for speaking. Like, just even listening to him talk to you, like he just is so poised, and I'm all over the place. I'm the creative one.
So to have the platform we have, not only to show how life can be good after paralysis, but also that you can be in a happy couple. And even though we do have our struggles, like life continues on, and it's happy and positive, and adventures keep happening.
And you're good dancers.
Oh gosh, you're so nice.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's not true.
We choose the simple TikTok ones. We have to do we follow the tutorial and do it like 20 times. We're like, okay, now I think we got it.
Yeah.
It's probably fun entertainment for you to think about the content and a team project that you can do in the middle of the chaos the world is in right now.
Right. It's been really fun.
Yeah,
We kind of make it little date nights to learn a TikTok dance.
Yeah, just because, especially, we don't really go outside much. We are trying to keep our distance and do what we can on our part with everything. But so it's nice where work is at home, everything's at home, and it's a way to kind of get out of ourselves and take a break and yeah, do a little like date night activity.
You've talked publicly about your faith and the importance that God plays in your life, and you talked about that briefly at the beginning, Sloan. How has that relationship helped you navigate the unique situation of your relationship and the chaos of the world?
For me personally, it gives me hope and a basis on which to live my life. I try to live as close to the principles that are taught in the Bible and how Christ lived his life. And that helps me to look at Sloan as a daughter of God, and all of us around us are all children of God. And so if I can kind of keep that lens, I can say, hey, I care about you and I hope for your best. And especially with Sloan, like there's times that I get frustrated with her or my situation or whatever. And I have to remember that we're all children of God, and that we're all navigating this life the best way that we can, and to understand that. And then it kind of calms me and centers me and helps me move forward.
It's nice to know we can kneel down and pray and ask for help and guidance. And
yeah, throughout my paralysis, I had some really spiritual experiences as well that just helped me know that, God's there for me. He understands my situation, and he's helped me in many, many occasions to overcome my issues that I have. And sometimes I don't feel strong enough to handle all of this, but with God, I know that I can.
Yeah, absolutely. And even when Matt and I were in the dating process, Matt was already talking about marriage, and I was having my doubts. And so I did kneel down and pray, and I was like, Heavenly Father, I need to know, like, is this the life I want to choose to live? And I just had this very strong impression that just said, like, you'll have a great life with Matt. And so I always have that to lean on. So even if it does get hard, I'm like, yeah, we have a great life.
So when it comes to your relationship, the publicity that you've received and the way that you've chosen to be public about your struggles and your joy, both, what are your goals for the future?
We just want to continue to educate people and show them that, life continues on. Just having an accident and kind of issue that you experience, like everybody has something. And so there's no reason that those things should stop you. And so that's kind of our goal, is to continue to educate and show our relationship, the ups and the downs. And one thing that's kind of hard with social media, I think, is that everybody shows their best all the time. And to be out there and say, you know what, sometimes life's not great and I'm struggling right now, but here's what, I can do to move forward. And that just shows everybody else that you're not unique when you have struggles, and you can also have a good life.
And your struggles are different than other people's, but you still have struggles and they still have struggles. And the things that get you through anything are the things that get you through everything.
Exactly. Yeah, I have a few different things. I'd say 3 things that really shape how I get through life is 1, taking my 10 minutes, 2, relying on God, and 3, understanding the principle of extreme ownership, meaning I'm completely in charge of my life and my happiness.
And that comes from a book, and I love that book as well. And Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, their lessons, and even, I don't know if you've listened to the audiobook of that, but it's their voices, and it's such a great audiobook. If you're not a book person, it's so well done. What else did that book teach you that helped you? I
loved how they showed their leadership, and that no matter what happened in life, they always kind of came back to them. And I was going through a little bit harder time with Sloan, because when we were first married, I guess right as we were getting married, I was really working on becoming independent and not needing to rely on Sloan, but I still needed help with simple things like getting dressed. doing toilet and bowel care and showering. And so I was having a hard time because she was not as happy, or I shouldn't say that, she wasn't as willing to help as she had been in the past. And I was like, she's not so much a morning person. I am. And I'm like, hey, I need to get up. I need your assistance and things like that. And so there was a little bit of hard time with that. And we were talking about this issue as I was listening to the audiobook. And she's like, don't you want to be independent? Don't you want to have more independence in your life? And I thought,
well, I asked him what his expectations were. Was he planning on us living our entire life this way, where I'm helping him constantly?
Yeah. And I was just kind of like, well, yeah, that's just rude, because it takes me, 4 or 5 times as long just to do that when so in my mind, I'm thinking this, and then I was listening to the audiobook and I thought, you know what, if I'm unhappy with our situation, that's on me. And that was the most freeing thought and freeing concept that I could have ever come across. And so I started saying, okay, Sloan is not able to do this at this time or whatever, so I'm going to figure out a way to do it. And got to the point where I figured out how to dress myself in bed in the morning. I'm able to completely take care of myself on my bowel program and showering. And so she doesn't have to take care of me at all. So she'll help sometimes. And I also had a kind of conversation with my dad that spurned this as well. But it was like, if Sloan can help me, great. That saves me some time. If not, no big deal. I got it. And so it's really nice for her that she knows if she needs to take off and is gone for a couple of days, like, I'm completely independent. I can take care of myself. I can feed myself, dress myself, entertain myself.
In the long run, it became a huge blessing.
Yeah.
It's so interesting, though, that your body didn't change.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't heal more or something. Your mind changed.
Exactly.
And your mindset changed, and then you were able to do more because you decided to. And that's a choice. And Sloan pushed you to make the choice, which must have been really difficult, Sloan, because I imagine you want to help and want to help and want to help, but thinking, okay, 50 years of this? I don't think so. So I give you both a ton of credit for the courage to say, you need to figure this out. And then Matt, for you to be able to figure out how to do it, because I'm sure it wasn't easy and you'd already been through so much trauma.
Yep, exactly. She actually said she kind of had a spiritual experience. Do you want to share that?
Well, I didn't know if it was Satan or the Holy Spirit trying to, because I remember sitting on the couch distinctly and I was doing some work and Matt was struggling getting into bed. And I just had this impression that was like, don't help him. And I didn't know if it was Satan trying to weave his way into our relationship and try to make us struggle, or if it was the Spirit saying, no, don't help him. He needs to learn this. I was paralyzed myself. I just sat on the couch and I was like, okay, I'm just going to let him struggle. And then we had a heart to heart where I told him, I'm like, I just had this feeling where it's like, don't help you. And it took him 20 minutes to sit on the bed. But after he did it, he was like, hey, I can do it. And he's learned how to get better and faster. And so it turned into a blessing.
Yeah, that tough love has been definitely tough. And there's been some kind of darker times and a few curse words have been used on my end, but it's definitely been really, really helpful in the long run for me.
Yep.
And the concept of relying on each other is different from depending on each other to the point that it negatively impacts a relationship.
Absolutely.
Because you can rely on each other, but not need each other to do basic things.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Was that some of the most difficult time in your relationship? That little spot right there when you had to think about, I'm not going to help you. And you had to, Matt, go, am I going to be mad at Sloan or am I going to figure it out?
Yeah, I honestly, that was probably one of our darkest times. We had moved out of our apartment as we were building a house and we're living with my dad. And so there was that added stress. And then she was, to me, in my mind, it was like, she doesn't want to help me because she's selfish and she's just doesn't love me like that or whatever. And so, I let my mind go way far the other way and I didn't follow my 10-minute rule. And I was really frustrated. I was like, I don't know if I can put up with this for a long time. And there was a rift between us and it was just really hard. And so kind of coming back to that book of of extreme ownership. I was like, you know what, I'm unhappy and it's no one else's fault except my own. And so I just said, I'm gonna own it, and that made all the difference.
Yeah, and we had a heart-to-heart conversation, and that's one thing with the injury. Matt has learned how to communicate very well, and I feel like
most of the time.
Yeah, well, I knew Matt before the injury, and I thought he was super obnoxious, and I honestly don't know where we would be without the accident, to be honest, because I think he's so much cooler now. Like, he's more humble, he communicates, and I think having this trial has made him such a great husband.
So that's so interesting. You think you wouldn't have maybe married had it not been for the injury?
I can't say like 100% I would know for sure. We wouldn't have been together, but I definitely think that the injury has opened our minds and our hearts to so many different things. Like, he's become more humbled and he communicates very well. And overall has just been such an awesome person. And I liked him before his injury, but there's something about him that I was like, oh, he annoys me.
I think I had a level of arrogance. I was just a young college student, so I was loud and goofy and whatever. And I didn't really, I don't know. I wouldn't say I wasn't humble, but I was just kind of, I was just that loud college student. And so we dated a little bit before I was injured and just were friends and whatever. But I've definitely learned a lot of lessons. And I'll say, if I had to get paralyzed to end up with Sloan, well, it was worth it.
That's so cute.
And I don't know what I did to deserve her. And even though there's times when I am mad at her or I am struggling, it always ends up for the good, I would say. Like, when she's refused to help me, it's been very helpful in the long run. And I don't know if that same situation or those same principles I would have learned had I been with someone else.
There's a truth in there that I'm not sure young couples in their relationship think about long term. If I start this now, 20 years from now, what does this really mean for my relationship? And a lot of people put up with things, and they're little when you're in your 20s, and they're a little bit bigger when you're in your 30s. They're super annoying when you have kids. And then by the time the kids are gone and you're retired, they're really big issues. So it's impressive that you were thinking like that so early in the relationship, because had you not had those thoughts, perhaps you would be resentful of how much he needed you for things that in your mind you were thinking he could do himself. And Matt, you were talking about, the things in your head when she wasn't helping you. You made up this whole story that wasn't even true. And it was so important to communicate with her, and then she could tell you that that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
And how often we do that.
Yeah, and it's so important to communicate in a relationship, and we're not perfect at it by any means, and we struggle just like everyone else, but it's so important to kind of say, hey, this is how I'm feeling, and I just get on a platform, because like you said, I'm making up these stories like she doesn't really love me, she's just selfish, she doesn't care. And then comes to the other side, she's like, hey, I'm doing all this, and if you can just do these simple tasks, and maybe it takes you a little bit longer, but it's one less thing off my plate. And I do love you, and I've had these experiences that have told me no, not to help you because it'll be better for you in the long run. And it's like, oh, okay, I see where you're coming from. And it just makes all the difference.
Right. You're telling yourself that she doesn't love you, and she's thinking, I love him so much, I want to be here in 50 years. So I have to make some hard choices now.
Yep.
So your story is inspiring, and you set out to educate people about disability and joy that comes in any kind of relationship, and there is no normal. And what you've done, I think, is show people, especially young people on a TikTok platform, what joy looks like in a relationship. There's so many social media accounts out there that are so negative about relationships, and being out there about your faith and how important that is in your relationship is impressive. And it's wonderful that you're showing that so that teenagers can see it. My kids saw your TikTok. They told me I should look at it. We contacted you. And I just want to thank you for being out there and being a role model.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. It's a good choice of words, especially role model. But yeah, no, that's what we're here for. And like you said, we just want to show and spread positivity. There's so much negativity in the media, and to have, I like social media and things like that as more of a distraction. And so I like to see positive things out there. And so if we can be that positive distraction or give hope to people, like that's what we're here for.
And we'll put links to your YouTube and TikTok and the book that you mentioned, Extreme Ownership, on flityourscriptpodcast.com. Before we finish up the interview, there's a question that we ask everyone, and that's, is there a book or a quote or something, a song verse that has gotten you through the difficult days?
Yeah, like we've mentioned before, the 10 minutes a day and extreme ownership, those two things have been pivotal in my life. The first one was to help me to get past some of my demons. And the second one was to realize how much control I had over my life. So if I can apply those two principles to any situation in life, I can make it a positive experience.
Yep. And one of my favorite quotes is, faith makes things possible, not easy. And I have that quote in our bathroom, and I get to see it every day.
Thank you for being on the Flip Your Script podcast.
Thanks for having us.
It was really fun.
I hope that the things that you've heard from Matt and Sloan about positivity and about choosing to spend time in negativity, but choosing a time and putting a limit on that and sharing your story so that you can inspire other people, touch other people, educate other people, and believing that joy can happen in any circumstance. My hope is that Matt and Sloan's story empowers you to believe you're capable of more than you think, to discover motivation, to uncover inspiration, and to find the strength to turn the page.
Thank you for listening to Flip Your Script, hosted by Christy Peel and produced by Media Minefield. If you like our message, please be sure to give us a 5-star rating and subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also check out flityourscriptpodcast.com for pictures, resources mentioned in the show, and information about our other great episodes.